It is 7:09 p.m. The Board of Trustees of LaPorte Independent School District is now convened. I wish to extend a warm welcome to everyone present. Every student's success is our number one priority. As the LaPorte ISD Board of Trustees, we're here to set goals, adopt policy, approve budgets, contracts, personnel appointments, and communicate the district's vision and success to the community. It is not the role of the board to make day-to-day operational decisions. The management and day-to-day operations of the district are the responsibility of the superintendent. This is a public meeting of the Board of Trustees, not a meeting of the public. School board meetings are open to all who wish to attend and hear the matters discussed. Audience participation is limited to the patron presentation portion of the meeting. Board members may not respond to the public comment section. These proceedings may be recorded, and I respectfully ask that you please refrain from talking while others are speaking. Thank you for taking time this evening to join us and for your interest in LaPorte Independent School District. At this time, we will stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Forward, march, left, right. Part-time march. Ready, halt. Left face. Present colors.
Will you join me with the pledge to the United States flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now the Texas flag. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Order, colors. Post, colors. Ready, seek. Present arms. Order arms. Center base. Part-time march. Forward march. Left, 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 right. Left, left, left.
For the presentation of the flags that was color guarded was Cadet Sergeant Major Jamie Alvarado, Cadet Mackenzie Bunch, First Sergeant Michelle Springer, and Corporal Aiden Tramp. Now we'll go with invocation will be given by Mr. Danny Hanks, Board Trustee.
Please bow our heads. Dear Heavenly Father, we ask for your presence here tonight. Be with us as we handle the business at hand. Grant us open minds, a servant's heart, and wisdom to make good decisions. Lord, we ask that you shroud our district in your constant protection. Keep our children and teachers safe from all those who wish to cause them harm. We ask that you help us make our district a community of inclusion and kindness, and that every student feels supported and loved. Heavenly Father, be with us this school year. Allow our hearts to be a light in someone's darkness so we can give them hope and encouragement. Lord, let our teachers see the hope as well. Strengthen their resolve to teach our children. Fan the flame of passion that led them to teach in the beginning, and lift them up when they are down, as we need their gift more than ever. Lord, bless our community today and always. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Amen. You may be seated. We'll go to item 5, board recognitions, student and staff recognition. Mr. Holland and Boyd will go up to the front.
You want to be up there?
Dan,
Help?
you want to get
That's what I'm trying, I think I'll just stay here. Yeah, I can
Just
stay
wave your
next to
hand
them and
in the
they
back.
make the curve. It'll be easier. No, it's okay.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Adam Holland. I am the Director of Communications and Community Relations, and it is always my privilege and pleasure to recognize people at the board meeting. It's the best part of the meeting. And first on the list this evening is our JROTC. Whenever asked to assist LaPorte ISD, our JROTC cadets have always answered the call, and I mean always. Whether they're presenting colors at board meetings, at convocations, whether they're driving golf carts, carting people into Bulldog Center, or handling traffic for the new teachers, they're always there. These young men and women take on duties, they perform them professionally and with pride, and we want to thank you for your service to our district. Cadet Sergeant Major Jamie Alvarado. Cadet Captain Mackenzie Bunch. Cadet First Sergeant Michelle Springer. Cadet Corporal Aiden Trant. Now, if you will all come back up here so that we can get a quick photo. Up there with the board. Again, thank you for all that you do. Mr. Rowan Hall, come up front, please. Ladies and gentlemen, for the past few years, Rowan Hall has worked hard with the LaPorte High School track team after joining as a freshman. This past spring, Rowan ran his first track meet and finished with a gold medal. Don't go anywhere yet. For all of his efforts, Rowan earned his letter in track and field and recently was surprised by his coaches and teammates with his LP letter jacket. And if you have not seen the Twitter video, it is absolutely marvelous. You can find it in just about everybody's feed in the district, so please look it up. Rowan, congratulations on your accomplishments, and we wish you well this upcoming track season.
That's awesome.
LaPorte High School students, including 10 recent graduates, have been named as 2022 AP Scholars. This honor recognizes high school students who have demonstrated outstanding college-level achievement through their performance on multiple AP exams, according to information from the College Board. I first want to let you know that several of these students graduated this past May, and they're off at school as we speak. Others may not be here tonight because they had other activities planned, but we're still going to go down the list and recognize everyone. And Mr. Grammer, if you could help me with the certificates. First, AP Scholar Awards for 21-22, James Dawson. Jacqueline De Leon. Caitlin Dominguez. Ava Espinosa. Emily Harris. Savannah Gilmore. Jacob Joji. Justin K. Eliason Lewis. Layla Lacone. Caitlin Martinez. Lauren Wynn. Madeline Rizuski. Victor Salinas. Larry Schuler, Jr. Kathleen Sims. Aubrey Slayton. Joseph Summer. Sean Summer. Brianna Vela. Austin Venable. Brooklyn Waller. Josiah Watson. Amy Willis. I told you the list was long. These are AP Scholars with distinction for 21-22. Isabella Balboa. Jenna Leslie. Harley McCarthy. Jorge Venegas. Our next recognition is AP Scholar with Honor, Ethan White. Isabella Baez. Congratulations to all of you. Yeah, y'all come on up here and let's make two rows.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Rebecca Brown, and I serve as the Deputy Superintendent of Academics here in LaPorte. I have the great honor tonight to honor our building leaders and the great work that they have done last year in our accountability for TA. So I'm pretty sure all of you know that TA every year puts out the accountability for the district as well as the schools, and we have fabulous leaders and teachers who have served our students well last year, and we want to honor them tonight with a nice banner, as well as let them come up here and shake our board members' hand and just say thank you for the work that they've done this year. All of our schools have worked tremendously hard last year for the achievement of our students. As we say in LaPorte, our #1 priority is every student, and every student is shows in our academic scores this past year. So I am going to start with our B rating campuses. So our first B rating campus is Jenny Reed Elementary, Principal Diane Whedon. So we're going to take a picture with our trustees, with every building principal. So we have these banners for them so they can hang in their building of the great work and accomplishment they did this past year. Thank you, Diane. Our next B campus, we're going to go to our secondary level, is our Principal Blake Minor at LaPorte Junior High School, who also has a B this year. Yes, if you have any staff that is here to represent your school, they should be up here too. Congratulations, LaPorte Junior. Moving on to our next B campus, we are delighted to have the Academy of Viola DeWalt High School with a B rating. So Jesse Loudermilk, if you can come up. Good job. And we are excited to announce our one comprehensive high school B rating. So Carlin Grammer, come on up. Great job. Carlin, do you have staff members that can? Come on, Britta. We are super excited now. Our A campuses. So these campuses this year have come out with an A. Not only do they have A's, I am going to also name their distinctions. So they only not got an A, but they are top 25% of each of their categories in distinction. So our first school is College Park Elementary with Miss Camilla Whitlock. So College College Park had distinctions in math, overall comparative academic growth, post-secondary readiness, and comparative closing the gaps, 5 different areas. So our next fabulous leader, Heritage Elementary, Ms. Linda Hyde with an A. So at Heritage, their distinction designations was math, science, overall comparative academic growth, post-secondary readiness, and comparative closing the gaps, all 6 areas. Our next great leader, LaPorte Elementary School, Ms. Karen Lawley, come on up. At LaPorte Elementary, distinctions were science, overall comparative academic growth, post-secondary readiness, and comparative closing the gaps. Yes, come on, Ms. Hyde, come on up. Come on. Great job. Our next great school, Lomax Elementary School. Miss Tracy Greenwood, come on up. So at Lomax Elementary, designations was in the areas of science, post-secondary readiness, and comparative closing the gaps. Last but not least, our great school, Rizzuto Elementary School. Mr. Jose Lozano, come on up. At Rizzuto, distinctions were in science, post-secondary readiness, and comparative closing the gaps. Thank you, everyone. We want to congratulate all of our campuses. They have worked really hard this year. We're excited what next year holds.
And I'm sure they're gonna be posted. Okay, we'll go to item 6, public comments. The board will now hear those who wish to make comments and who have completed and returned the public comment participation request. This section will be conducted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act and board policy. Complaints and concerns for which other resolution channels are provided shall be directed through those channels. Mr. Shoppy, are there any comments? Okay. We will go to item 7, administrative reports. Dr. Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to take this opportunity to, we've concluded with our recognitions, but I'd also like to introduce to the community and to the board our newest assistant principal at LaPorte High School, Miss Britta Carter. Please stand, Britta. Let's give her a hand. I'm excited to welcome Ms. Britta Carter to LaPorte ISD. She comes to us from Dickinson ISD, where she was serving as the STEAM, that's Science, Technology, Engineering, Arts, and Math specialist. Prior to serving in this role, she served as a middle school STEM coordinator and academic coach in Dickinson ISD, as well as a social studies department chair and classroom teacher in Dickinson and Pasadena ISD. Ms. Carter holds a Bachelor of Arts degree in German from Florida State University and a Master of Science degree in Administration from Central Michigan University. She's a certified administrator and certified in social studies, business education, Project Lead the Way certified, and Project Lead the Way certified. She also holds GT and ESL certifications. Ms. Carter has an extensive STEM background and experience collaborating with teachers and campus administrators to plan high-quality, integrated STEAM instruction and plan engaging professional development sessions for campus teams. She is very excited for the opportunity to join the LaPorte ISD family. Please join me in welcoming her to LaPorte ISD one more time. So Britta, if you'd like to introduce your guests, you're certainly welcome to do that at this time.
This is my husband, Trey Carter, and my son, Justin.
And Lord, I want you to know she's already begun her work at LaPorte and high school, and we're very excited to have her here. Thank you so much. We've had a strong and positive start to the school year, and students have learned routines, and teachers are establishing and building relationships with all students. Staff across the district are focusing on one of our district priorities this year, which is to improve our attendance for all students. As we know, students can only learn at high levels when they are at school each and every day. We appreciate all the efforts that have been put into place into promoting good attendance by all of our leaders. We thank our parents and our guardians for helping us to send a strong message to all of our students that it is cool to be in school. Also, we're equally excited that the district enrollment has improved this year. For that, we need to clap, y'all. Now, I'm going to start just telling y'all when to clap, okay? Is that all right? But we're very excited that our district enrollment has topped 7,000 this year. It's been a while since we've been there due to the pandemic and other external forces and factors. Again, we thank our campus attendance clerks, our campus registrars, and our campus principals, and everyone that has put their hands to it for the help for calling students, conducting home visits, and making learning a priority in our district. And then lastly, we certainly thank everyone who attended the Distinguished Alumni and Citizens Luncheon last Friday. A great time was had by all, where the district honored distinguished alumni Terry Cook, Joel Fagan, and Debbie Wade. Receiving the Distinguished Citizens Honor was Rachel Cotton and Ann Malone. We thank all of the honorees for their selfless service to our district, and we encourage others to get involved with our district by supporting through our Watchdogs program. That's Dads of Great Students. That's on all of our elementary programs. We certainly encourage you to get involved in that. With our Helps Mentoring program, that's a newly mentoring program for our district, and we certainly encourage everybody to get involved. And there are many opportunities for training for that. And I believe some of those may be even on our website. And then lastly, we encourage folks that would like to support us by adopting a classroom or adopting a teacher or adopting the entire school if you'd like to show your support of our wonderful teachers and students. We're happy that families have chosen LaPorte, and we're happy that families are continuing to choose LaPorte and to live and to thrive. And we thank the board for your support, and we thank our principals and our support staff for all that you do for us. This will conclude my comments as the superintendent's report, Mr. President.
Okay. Thank you. And we'll go to item C, Star Accountability Presentation. B, okay, you want to do B? We'll go with B, Enrollment Update.
Hello. I'm gonna pull this up, but you all have a copy. The first page is just totals by campus, and then the detail is by grade by campus. So I'm just gonna talk about this total page to begin with. So I've kind of color coded it to where the same color is the same year, but we have beginning of the year, snapshot date, and end of the year. And obviously for this year, we don't have snapshot or end of the year, but I put our enrollment as of yesterday in, with the snapshot comparison. So a couple things to note, 18-19 was pre-COVID, and so if you look at our enrollment in 18-19, and we'll just use the snapshot date for comparison, our enrollment at the high school is 2,090 as of yesterday. It was 2112 at snapshot date in 18-19 pre-COVID, so that's pretty good. But if you add the academy and the high school together, we're at 2249 now. We were at 2213 then. So yay, that's good. LaPorte Junior High is up 525 compared to 510. Baker's down 509 to 590. LaPorte Lomax Junior High is down 574 to 608. Jenny Reed is down 408 to 432. Heritage is up quite a bit, 572 to 468, a little over 100. LaPorte Elementary is up 531 to 518. Bayshore Elementary is down 402 to 571. College Park is down 439 to 454. Lomax Elementary is up 505 to 462, and Rizzuto is down 378 to 558. But overall, our snapshot enrollment in 18-19 was 7,384. We're at 7,092. If you look at our 19-20 snapshot, it's 7,209. So we're getting there. We are making progress. Our numbers, the 2 years post-COVID, have not passed 7,000. So these numbers are encouraging to us. We're liking them. And I'm not really going to get into the detail by grade or anything. I'm just giving it to you for your information, unless you have specific questions or want to look at something else.
I just want to ask, I personally just looking at it, I think that some of the fluctuation between some of the schools increasing and some decreasing has to do with the neighborhood, Morgan's Landing being built, and some of the students who may have moved inter-district into other schools. Does that sound pretty accurate?
You know, I don't really know, like, so you're saying like people that maybe would be in Jenny Reed's zone has moved to Morgan's Landing, so now they're going to LaPorte. Lomax, or, I think Jenny Reed is part of it. But yes, that could very well be, because if they're, but I would say that probably Morgan's Landing is more kids that have aged up. So maybe, you know, they're not in elementary school anymore, but they could be. I mean, I don't have that data.
But I will say, and that's a very good point, is
Yes.
that we can tell where the shifts are starting to happen, which is gonna cause us to go back now and study more closely, you know, where the shifts are. But there's growing, and there's apartment buildings and homes being built everywhere. We're just not really sure exactly now where they're all coming from. But we can see at the secondary level, we have a higher number than the elementary level, but we're not real sure always what homes they're actually. So we're gonna be able to say that. Now that we're growing again, or now that we're back to where we were, we've got something to look at, a trend to kind of follow.
And sometimes it's aging homes too, those kids are aging. But also, those homes are turning over for these people to move into Morgan's Landing. And we're hopeful that maybe some young families are buying those, but maybe kids aren't in school yet, and we'll see some of those numbers increase too.
I think we'll see the pandemic population explosion in the next 4 years.
That would be awesome.
Rhonda, with this year's enrollment increase, does that affect this year's recapture payment, or is that like a one-year lag time?
So recapture is based on ADA.
Mhm.
So enrollment doesn't do it alone. The more enrollment, the higher our ADA is gonna be, but they have to attend school. So if we have somebody that enrolls and comes once a week, that's not really helping us a lot, but it's helping us more than if they don't do it at all. So, if these kids come to school, yes.
Okay.
And most likely, our campuses have been working so hard on attendance, and they have been doing awesome. They have had remarkable attendance. We're trying to get back up to our standard 95%, and they're working super hard to do that and doing really well. So if they continue and keep the momentum going, we should have a great year.
Wanda, do you happen to know what, sorry to put you on the spot on this, but like, talk a lot about growing the district in terms of population of students, but what would be our capacity without having to overcrowd? Like, I know that I asked before, like a sweet spot, maybe 7,500 kids, but what would be, how many could we accommodate in addition to the 7,000 we currently have?
Well, we used to be 7,900 back in 2008.
Right, and at one point, we were over 8,000. You know, I think we
Yeah.
could, I mean, I would just be throwing a guess out there, but I would say between 8,000 and 9,000. Yeah, without any having to build buildings or anything.
If you think about it, and you're right, you've been here longer than I have, but I mean, just based on the capacity of our elementaries and our secondary campuses, 8,500 to 9,000, but I originally said 8,500. But if you think about it, I mean, we've got some elementaries now with 400, 450. I mean, a nice sized elementary could easily be 600 kids. You know, now clearly we'd have to put more staff there to kind of take care of that, but that could happen.
And our newer elementaries, I think, have a 750 student capacity, Bay Shore and Lomax. So, yeah, there's.
And there's a lot of growth that would have to happen for an elementary to go from 450 to 700.
Yeah.
I mean, it would take us at least the next 4 to 5 years for that to happen.
But it would be so great.
But it would be great.
It would be great.
I'm seeing empty lots getting filled with houses. We're about to have a 295 unit Class A apartment complex being built on the corner of Canada and Fairmont, and so, I mean, hopefully we'll be getting more growth.
Mr. Marler, could you tell us approximately how many kids generally come from an apartment that size as far as transportation is, is concerned?
295, I think there's, plus, we're around 55 to 60 out of classes. That's about how many per. It also depends on school age, but that's about.
Thank you. So the growth is coming this way, board, and we're excited about it. And I think we have everything we need to manage that growth, especially if it happens like it's happening right now. But we want to see this district get back to 8,500, 9,000 students at some point.
Any other questions?
No, I don't have a question, I just have a comment. I want to thank all the principals and staff members and Todd Shoppy for helping and getting, students enrolled in our schools. Walk got canceled last Saturday. I was kind of looking forward to it, but it was canceled for a good reason, because with y'all's efforts and work and getting kids into schools, and so I appreciate everyone's efforts in helping get our students back in school. So I appreciate everybody's efforts. Do you have anything? No? Okay. We'll go to item C, Star Accountability Presentation.
Good evening, Board President Yonda, Board of Trustees, and Superintendent Jackson. This evening, I'm going to present on our STAR accountability from 21-22. The reason we are presenting this month and not last month is we finally received our district accountability in the end of July, early August. So it was the week that we had a board meeting, and then that Wednesday is when, that Wednesday after our board meeting is when they gave us our data. So that's why we're kind of a month behind. So we're gonna start with, just to give you, and I know you've seen this a lot, but I wanted to, again, to summarize how our accountability rating looks currently in TA. So if you look at TA, they have 3 domains, and under 3, the first one is student achievement. Student achievement is 100% of students passing STAR for elementary and middle school. For high school, it is 40% passing STAR, which is our EOCs. The other 40% is our CCMR, and the other 20% is our graduation rate. So that's your student achievement in domain 1. In domain 2, you have 2 parts. It's called school progress, but they actually have school progress A and school progress B. School progress A is student academic growth, and what they measure is the year prior, so it has to be a 4th through 8, and our English 2. So what the student made in 3rd grade, for example, is his or her STAR in 3rd grade. Compare that to his or her 4th grade score. That would be your academic growth on school progress. The other part of school progress is Part B. Part B compares the student achievement domain comparable to similar campuses. So you have 2 pieces of school progress. What TA does is, if you notice on this slide, they take the better of either domain A or domain B, and they use that as the comparable group or the comparison for our district. The last piece, the 30%, is the closing the gap. And really, closing the gap is performance of student groups. So any student group, our EDs, our Hispanic, our African American, our Anglos, those are all the student groups, and that is the 30%. So in LaPorte, I wanted to go back a few years, because this was the last rating that we received prior to COVID, was in 2019-2020. So we were overall as a district at 85%. Our graduation rate was 95.3, and our CCMR, which is our college, career, military, was 57%. Keep in mind, though, that graduation rate and CCMR is lagging data, so it's always a year behind. So we are happy to share with you that this past year, we've improved because of the work and the leadership of our building campus principals and our teachers, and everyone in central office. We moved from 2019-2020 to 21-22 with an 87% increase. So we are getting there to be an A district, and we are going to work hard this year to make sure we get there. Our graduation rate was at 95.1%, and our CCMR was at 67%. So I have broken it up for you by campus so you can look. So we'll start with our high school. So our comprehensive high school report in 2019, we were at 81 overall rating. This year, at 2022, 81. Our graduation rate was 96.3. This year was 95.5 this past year. And our CCMR showed great improvement from 60% to 76%. Just to give you a quick summary of CCMR, that is college, career, military readiness. In the past 2 years, military was not rated in the state because it was hard for the state to track students if they said they were going to the military. So the college ready is if kids can meet 3s on their AP exam, that's one way. If they meet their TSI, they take their TSI and pass with a certain point. If they complete their dual credit courses, or they earn an associate degree, or they have on-ramps. Here in the district, we do not provide on-ramps, but the others we do. That would be a point. That would be for college ready. The other way a student CCMR can gain a point is career ready. That would be completing an industry-based certification. So that would be the student's certified pathway in terms of CCMR. When they get to 8th grade, counselors start having conversations with students and saying, so what pathway would you like to go? STEM, business, and then that takes them into a certain pathway doing the high school courses. Some of those courses, and most of them, have certification base, and we give them that while they are in school before they graduate. The other way for career ready is to graduate with, for our special ed students, is an IEP with a workforce readiness, and finally earning a level 1 or 2 certificate. Moving forward for this year, because remember it's lagging data, so we are working on CCMR this year, but this year they are going to start looking at military again. So they created, now TA has found a way to track students if they decide to choose to go to the military. And so we're gonna be able to do that starting this year for our 24 data. If you look at DeWalt, you will also see a great increase. The overall rating of DeWalt in 2019 was 83. This year's 81, but if you notice, the graduation rate went up from a 95 to a 96%, and the CCMR went up from a 17 to a 19%. When we are looking at our middle schools, our Baker sixth grade campus, in 2019, we were at 79. This year, this past year, we're at 75. LaPorte Junior High School showed gains from a 75 to an 80, and then Lomax Junior from a 79 to 78. If you also notice, we want to give kudos to Lomax Junior. They received an ELA rating distinction. Again, a distinction is your campus is compared to 40 other campuses across the state of Texas with your same demographics. And if within those 40 campuses, including yours, if you meet a certain academic achievement, top 25% of those 40 campuses, you get a distinction. So we want to congratulate Lomax on having a rating distinction this past year. We also want to, again, and you just had our banners up, and to recognize all of our elementary principals for the great work and dedication of this past year. If you notice, we are a superb group of campuses. Bayshore, we're showing improvement every day. College Park, Heritage, look at the great gains from an 85 in College Park to a 92 this past year. Heritage, 85 to 94. Jenny Reed, 82 to 89. LaPorte Elementary, 92 to 94. Rizzuto, 94 to 90, and Lomax, 89 to 91. This is a great feat. All of our building principals have worked really hard. Teachers have worked really hard this past year to see what we see now. So this is great praise for everyone in this district for the work that was done this past year. Again, this is just a summary of the distinctions for our elementary schools. If you notice, and again, I won't read them out to you because you'll see it on your slide, but these are our campuses with certain distinctions based on their achievement. Again, distinctions and designations are based on a 40 campus list, and again, it's randomly chosen comparable to the demographic of that campus, and it's across any city in the state of Texas, and they match them, and then they, if they reach a 25% percentile, then they are, their distinction is met. And so these are our campuses and the great work they did with their distinctions. So again, we just wanted to praise overall for this past year, 87, which is our B rating. A ratings, we had 75% of our elementary campuses at A rating, and then we had 20 academic distinctions across all of our campuses this past year. Great work to all of our leaders. And I wanted to also end with, what is the focus for this year? So we are 87, but our goal is to be an A district next year. Moving from an A district, from a B district, we have 3 different focus areas. The first one is all students. When we say all students, all 7,012 students currently in our schools, we need to know every single student and every single student's need. So when we say all student focus this year, we're designing lessons that meets every single student's needs. What does that look like in a classroom? And it's a lot of work for a teacher, but what we want to do is provide that support to our teachers to ensure that not every kid learns the same way. So we as teachers and as campus leaders have to ensure that we're teaching kids to what their needs are. That's all students. We're also focused on the PLC work. We are professional learning communities, and we want to ensure that we are growing our teachers as much as the teachers are growing our students. So our goal in central office and the academics team is to ensure that we provide our teachers with the necessary resources as well as the support they need as we move and strive for an A rating this year. Included in that definitely is the social emotional learning. We know that our students cannot learn if their social emotional needs are not met. That is crucial to the work we do. And again, to all board members, we want to thank you for our coordinator of SEL position this past year. Ms. Jancy Alvaro is working on ensuring that our teachers, not only our students, but our staff are supported with the social emotional needs that they need this year in order for learning to happen in the classroom. And finally, with instruction, with all students, is Tier 1 instruction. We know what happens when the student walks into a classroom for the 45-minute class or a 90-minute class. That is the key to pulling the students more than after-school tutorials, more than Saturday tutorials. We have to meet the students where they are when they walk into our class. So our Tier 1 instruction is the focus for this year. What does that look like in terms of whole group instruction, but whole group instruction with small group lessons that's happening while you're in the classroom? We have, I just wanted to give you this, this last piece, this last caveat, is every 5 years, TA decides that they want to change accountability. So, welcome, this 5 years is coming up now. So we say that to say that in the next, this year, we had a meeting with the commissioner, so Superintendent Jackson, myself. We went to Region 4 for a meeting last week, and the commissioner has said things will be changing again. Not surprising. But with that, I just wanted to give you a quick refresh. So they are going to refresh the accountability system again. Some of the things that they are considering is changing the cut point score. So what does that look like in terms of post-COVID? So they want to look and see what that's going to look like and how they're going to change that cut score of passing or failing. The other thing is improving and recognizing growth. So they're working on what growth looks like. So as I shared with you in slide 1, the different progress growth, that may change for, in the next few years. And they want to update CCMR. So the CCMR piece is huge to districts because, as I shared, it's 40% of our high school.
Right.
And so they're changing that. So we're getting updates daily on what that looks like, and our team is working on what that looks like because we got to work on this for 2024. So right now, Carlin's team, Jesse's team, we're working on CCMR now, getting ready for 2024 data. And finally, the preliminary A through F framework, they're showing us what it may look like this fall. And again, on the timeline, it was supposed to be September, but guess what? We don't have it yet. But schools and districts will be having it soon, but they now are going to show us a preliminary A through F rating and what that may look like for this upcoming spring. So we are waiting waiting slowly, but anticipating, trying to see what we can do. But in the meantime, as you can see in the screen, our number one focus is all students, Tier 1 instruction, and SEL. So no matter what TA gives us in our district, we're going to be ready for it because we're focused on the right things, which is every single student here in this district, 7,112? 7,090. 7,090. So every day increasing. But lastly, we just want to say thank you for all your support, all board members, for all that you do for our teachers, our leaders each day. Your support, your questions helps us to be better leaders, so we thank you for all that you do. Any questions?
I have a question on the CCMR, and I apologize, I'm kind of slow in understanding it. I know we had a 12% increase from 2019, but there's still about a 28% gap between our graduation rate and the CCMR. Can you speak to what factors into that gap? And is our goal on CCMR to be 100%? And does that mean that, like, if I guess in my head, the 33% of our kids aren't ready to go to a career, college, or the military? Is that what that means?
Right, so good question. So CCMR is actually different from graduation. So when a kid graduates, for us, we get that as part of our percentage of how many students. So within TA, they have a completion rate of 4 years. So when a ninth grader steps into LaPorte High School's campus or DeWalt, the clock starts ticking. So for graduation, we have 4 years to graduate that student. So that student's 4 years becomes our graduation rate. So by the time the student is a senior, if he graduates on time, then he counts as part of our graduation rate for the following year. With CCMR, that's different. So CCMR is actually the initiative of how are K-12 campuses preparing students for after high school. So they decided to have, here's what you can do. So with CCMR, students get 1 point for either career ready or college ready, or in the past, military ready. Because they want to value students who decide they want to go to the military. So that 1 point goes towards our rate. But if a student, for instance, when I had shared for college ready, if a student's not in the AP class, or if he or she did not score a 3 or higher in the AP class, then it doesn't count.
So that's my question. It's the graduation rate alone.
Yes, that's
doesn't-
different.
So you're
No.
saying if you graduate, you're not ready to go to college?
No.
Really?
So you have to, so our high schools have a big, right, under TA standard. So our high school has a big fee. So what they do is we actually create a tracker for graduation, and we create a tracker for CCMR. Because we've got to see and make sure the student gets a point in CCMR. It's either college ready or a certification in terms of what his pathway is. So those are two different things in terms of graduation. So needless to say, our high school has a lot of work to do. Every time a student walks in, they're counting the hours and the minutes of the student graduating, but they're also counting what his point will be before he graduates as a senior.
How much does that factor into our overall grade as a district?
Huge. So, very huge, you're right. So when you look at this, under high schools make the bulk of a district's point. So when you're looking at this, when I shared with you under student achievement, that's for elementary, middle, that's just kids passing STAR, okay? But for high school, for them to reach a certain cut point with student achievement, 40% is passing the EOC. 40% is that CCMR point. They've got to get that point. And then the other 20% is graduation. And so when you look at the rating for us, that's why this is important to see, that the graduation and the CCMR calculates to that 87% that we have as an overall district. So it's all important for you to also see how DeWalt and the high school does. So with DeWalt with 19%, and with the high school at 76, we have to calculate both together. And so what we want is what you said, Trustee Martin, is we want to make sure 100% of kids at both campuses get a certain point in a certain way. And so that's our focus this year, because it's an easy way, but it's not as easy, because those students have to have a certain certification in order to get the CCMR point. Or they have to score a certain number of SAT or their AP score.
Thank you.
Dr. Brown,
Uh-huh.
on the elementary ratings,
Mhm.
what indicators or factors that may have contributed to possibly Bayshore taking a hit in their economy score compared to the other elementary schools?
That's a good question. So the historical history of Bayshore is, what we see here is our principal at Bayshore and the teachers and the leaders at Bayshore have worked tremendously hard to receive the 79. When we look, and right here you just see a number, but what we see is student data. We look at every student data, we look at every subject, and what we see is the work that Lisa and her team has done in terms of moving from a 78 to 79, because you're talking about every third, fourth, fifth grade student with reading and math. And she has shown tremendous gains across the school. We are confident that this upcoming year, Bayshore would be, we're gonna say an A campus. And if they're getting there, they will be an A campus. But I would say contributing factors would be student achievement, but also, I would also say, student achievement, but also teacher capacity. But what we know is we are all hands on deck. So every single campus here on this list, as well as Bayshore, is we will give every teacher what they need in order to be successful with the students in the classroom. And we'll make sure, and again, I can show you their data, Bayshore, and you will see the improvement that has been made in just 1 year at Bayshore, and the work that they've done at Bayshore in 1 year. But we also know what we need to work on.
Okay.
That's interesting to point out, because I didn't think it was, looking at 2019, so Because it looks like 1 point, but really, a lot of these schools might take a big dip.
That's right.
And across the state, right?
That's
They-
right.
They took a, I didn't think about that.
Yeah, that's
A massive
good to
dip
know,
to come
you're
back
right.
from that.
Because if you notice, remember COVID, across the state, it was a big dip. And so that accountability didn't count. And so what we're showing you here is just the last accountability piece minus COVID.
And Dr. Brown certainly doesn't need me to help her to explain this, but she knows it far better than I could ever understand this accountability system. But I think it's important that we remind everybody, board that hears and learns about the data on any campus, is on any given day, a child could be in any school in America in third grade testing for the first time, but that kid really could be reading at first grade level. And so the miraculous work that happens is, in many cases, teachers are moving those kids instead of 1 year. Am I right, principals? Many times they are moving them 2 years, or
4
sometimes
years.
3 years in 1 school year. And that number never really tells the full story of that.
Right.
I mean, we rah-rah about the things that we do really well, but man, to move like you've moved, there's a lot of things that happen, and there's a lot of moving parts. There could be kids in the 4th grade that are not leading on the 4th grade level.
Right.
And so that's happening again. And that happens at everybody's campuses, by the way.
Right.
Sometimes you're just not as lucky to have so many in one classroom around. And so, that's why we really, we congratulate and we celebrate those things, but we also say to all of our folks that our kids are more than just a letter grade. And our campuses are more than that, and our teachers value is more than that. So
And
I
that's
appreciate you sharing that.
And just to bring up again, when I shared that things are changing with accountability, remember, STAR 2.0 is coming. And so STAR 2.0, meaning this year, when kids are gonna take the STAR test, the questions are even more difficult. So that's where, so every time we're moving a step, TA is trying to move a step ahead of us in terms of what we're doing. And again, it's not about numbers per se, it's about our student. Every single student who walks through LaPorte's doors at any campus, our goal is to raise that student in whichever way possible. And that's our goal as a district, and that's why we say number one priority is our student success.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Brown.
Thank you, Dr. Brown.
Thank you.
You said that so nice. I'd like to say what TEA does in a different way, but I'll just stifle that. Yonder was right. Beep.
Yeah.
Beep, beep.
Okay. We'll go to, item D, 2023 bond planning and update.
I think Ms. Olivares is helping me out, passing around a quick one-pager. Good evening, President Yonda, Board of Trustees, Superintendent Jackson. Tonight, I want to give a brief report on our progress in regarding the 2023 bond planning. Kind of provided just a quick overview as we've really started to rev up our process in this whole planning component. And this will be kind of twofold tonight. I'll go over this quick document here, and then we have Mr. Barnes here from Huckabee, which is our architect, who's going to come up and talk a little bit further or more in depth about some of our planning that we've done thus far in regards to the multi-purpose stadium. So at the top there, you can kind of see a quick timeline, and I think it's important just to kind of give you an overview of what our Citizens Bond Steering Committee is working on, and kind of what our charge is currently, and how we're going to move up to some, important dates as we move into January and February. But September, we just had a meeting a week or so ago, but as we move to the end of September, the plan is to put out a community survey. That survey is just kind of really to give us kind of a grasp of our community and some of their feelings and thoughts on the possibility of moving in toward a bond and calling that. And it really helps that committee guide some of our conversations and discussions when we're planning and putting things together when we meet. October is an important month. We'll be getting together to review our bond capacity and what that looks like as far as numbers and what that will do to our tax rate if we start to move forward with that, because we know that's a burning question, and we want to be able to answer all that. And also, through September and October, we'll really be reviewing what possible projects we want to look at and add into that component. We'll move into November, and we'll start to prioritize those potential bond projects. And then as we get into December, obviously, the plan would be to finalize that into recommendations. Obviously, this can move quickly, more things can be added to it, but this is the general overview, and as we meet as a steering committee, this is how we've approached our layout as we move into 2023. January, we would come to you with a recommendation, and obviously the deadline to call for a bond would be February 17th. So that gives you a general kind of forecast of what that will look like from a steering committee, and obviously each month, Dr. Jackson wants me to come and give you an overview of the work that we're doing. So it may change, but that kind of gives you a little bit of an outlook of what that looks like. So when you move down to the left, we kind of have two major projects that we're kind of looking towards and working on as a committee. The left side, sorry guys, did that. On the left side is pretty standard. I know this has been talked about a lot, but our lifeline is in the bond. And a lot of what we've done with our budgeting and our maintenance and operations, from recycle or replacement cycles with our buses and chillers and boilers and all of those things that allow us to keep our facilities top notch, to make sure our technology is at a level that competes with surrounding districts, if not beats them. You know, it's important that we have that a part of this conversation of possibly going to a bond. So that is one piece. Obviously, the district is working heavy on that part of it and trying to forecast what that will look like, whether we look at 5, 8 to 10 years out within this bond component. The right side, and this is where Mr. Barnes will come up and talk a little further, but just to give you perspective, that's the multi-purpose stadium conversation. I know there's been talk privy to me, but the stadium was built in the 1960s. The press box was updated in 2007. Most of our time as a committee thus far has been taking a tour of the stadium and kind of discussing the conditions and some of the things that we're seeing there. There was a site assessment that was done back in November of last year to look at walking surfaces, the structural component of the stadium, track conditions, and drainage being a huge issue. And those estimates that we had, and mind you, these are numbers that are old, so they're different already, but I'm just putting that up there that was given to me from that site assessment. For a repair or renovation, it was around 29 or 30 million. And obviously what we're working now would be a complete rebuild at 40 to 60 million. And again, I repeat, those numbers are estimates. On the right side, we have an in-house, what we call a district design and development committee. And that committee has worked closely with Huckabee, which is our architect, and Mr. Barnes, to really outline what that multi-purpose stadium, and I say multi-purpose because one of the driving factors is to make that multifaceted, to where it fits multiple programs, not just football. You know, and he'll talk more about how we got to where we got and show you a graphic. But this gives you a general perspective of the work that we're doing, because it's important to do that, and we're trying to get as many people involved in that process with the steering component and the district level to get a product and a recommendation to you, you know, that makes sense, and that's driven for our district, and will cover the needs for us for several years out. Okay? Any questions on what you see here before I get Mr. Barnes up here?
I guess with this being September, this community survey, what does that look like, entail, and how we going to distribute that?
I'll make sure I share that with the board before we send that out, okay?
It's very standard. Working with Huckabee and Gallagher, which is our program manager, it just kind of overviews what is your thoughts on the district's needs. I can kind of read a few questions to you. If LaPorte were to hold a bond election to improve facilities, including safety and security upgrades, would you vote in favor of the bond, vote against? What are the reasons you would support a bond election in LaPorte ISD? Check all that apply. Modern safety, excellent school district, and modern facilities. So it's very generic, but it does drive. I mean, if we get all negative from the survey, we may think different and, you know, and obviously come to you and give
And
you
it's the type
different.
of survey that is used for most school districts.
Yes, this came from other districts and an example that we created based on that. And I can get that to you.
And that's going to be distributed to
The
parents, community,
stakeholders,
everybody?
absolutely. Yeah, and that'll occur at the end of September.
Okay.
I guess the more a statement than anything. Because we're going to talk about a bond, I know we have the exact numbers yet, but it's going to be excessive of $100 million, probably well in excess of that, I'd imagine, right? So with that being said, we're getting a lot of questions already. As a board member, we're going to be held to account for financial resources of this district, as Dr. Jackson and everybody else. I just like to be included. I appreciate the updates, but I got a lot of questions, and I hate to bombard you with all these questions here this meeting, but I'd like to be a part. I'd like for all the board members to be able to, if they want to be a part of the bond steering committee, if you will.
So Jeff, you obviously heard my conversation with Dustin just the other day, okay? So what we're planning to do, and I didn't mean to cut you off, but I know where you were going with that question, and I want to share it publicly. What we're gonna do beginning in October is we're going to post those meetings so that any board member that would like to attend those bond steering committee meetings are welcome to do that. And so, way before you asked that question, we had already decided that was gonna happen, so.
I appreciate it. I think that would help, to save time in this meeting. Not trying to get, it just helps us have ammunition when we're selling this to the public.
Absolutely. And we're getting close enough now that's the time for us to.
It's important.
Yeah,
Thank
very
you.
important.
Okay, if there's no further questions for me, I'm going to invite up Mr. Tim Barnes here with Huckabee. Obviously, he's our architect, he's working closely with us. Come on up, Tim. Pass it over to Tim. Can I help you with this? Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Nice to see you again. Copy? That's a little rap right there.
All right, thank you, Dr. Jackson, Board President, Board members. I appreciate the opportunity to come up here to give a quick update on kind of where we are. For those who may or may not know, I like to talk a lot, but I promise I was going to try to keep this update brief. So if I go past any time limits, just hit the little buzzer and I'll be quiet. So as I said, since Huckabee has been selected by the board to be a partner to the district in this process in both the bond planning and the potential Bulldog Stadium project, we have had numerous meetings with the design committee, as Mr. Broadman mentioned. So one of the first things we did in our initial meeting was we asked the all-important question of why are we doing this? And that was the very first question that we asked. And in that meeting, each of the committee members, we wanted to make sure we heard their voices. They all pretty much in unison said the same thing. It's because the Porte ISD kids deserve this. And that was very important for us to hear. You know, we didn't want to undertake this whole process without understanding why LaPorte ISD is engaged in this process. And so they wanted to make sure that we understood that because your kids deserve it. We also heard from the committee members that the current facility does not meet the needs of the district going forward. It has, obviously has served its purpose for all these years, as Mr. Brawley talked about, but going forward, the committee felt like it no longer meets those needs. We also heard had several conversations regarding the flooding issues that take place out at the current venue. That was very important. And then the other thing that we heard, which was also kind of critical, was that we heard about the periodic repairs that are done to the stadium. This apparently is an ongoing process that this committee felt was very challenging to the district, and they felt like those repairs are no longer viable to continue to do that from a fiduciary perspective. And once again, like I said, it was important for us to hear their voices as to why we're doing this. The next question we asked was, well, what does this facility, this new venue, mean for LaPorte ISD, or could mean for LaPorte ISD? And once again, it was almost unanimous. The voices that we heard in that room was they felt like this is the LaPorte ISD is the kind of the cultural hub of the city of LaPorte ISD, and they wanted to strengthen that. So whatever we do in terms of this venue, whatever the final venue looks like, it has to remain the cultural hub of the city of LaPorte. So that was very important that the committee shared that with us. And they also talked about they want this to be a place of destination. And we understand that once again, because of the importance of LaPorte ISD to the city of LaPorte, they want to maintain that sense of community and that this being a place of destination. Also, the next most important thing that the committee felt like they wanted to make sure we understood was that they did not want to continue to look at temporary fixes at this venue. This has to be a long-range plan solution, whatever is done on that site or on behalf of the city of LaPorte and of course the LaPorte ISD, that whatever is done, it has to be a long-range solution. So they were not just looking for a temporary fix. The other thing, of course, was that we all understand how strong of a commitment, those of us who are familiar with LaPorte or may not be familiar with LaPorte, LaPorte has a very strong sense of hometown, a sense of belonging. And so it was important that whatever we do in terms of this new venue, that it maintains that strong sense of hometown. This is your home. The next thing we kind of got into was how do we achieve these goals that the committee had identified. And so what they talked about was they see this venue as being an opportunity to spark a renaissance, not only for LaPorte ISD, but also for the city of LaPorte. And so that was also important that this new venue had an opportunity to kind of spark a renaissance throughout the city and throughout the district. That was very important as well. We also talked about being able to create a venue that would expand opportunities for the entire community, not just LaPorte ISD and the students, but the entire community, both those in the city of LaPorte as well as some of the surrounding areas, being able to reach out to other communities as well and bringing them into LaPorte, the district of LaPorte. And so it has to be an opportunity to expand, it has to be a venue that expands those opportunities throughout for the community. And then, of course, one of the most important thing was this has to be a memorable experience for the students of LaPorte ISD. That was the most critical thing. In addition to serving the community and meeting all those goals, they wanted to create a memorable experience for any student, that whether you start at the early childhood center all the way through high school, that as you've gone through, that this venue kind of signified that created a memorable experience as you graduated from LaPorte ISD. And in our next meeting, we kind of started looking at the kind of took a critical site analysis. Now, it was pointed out to us from the committee that right now, that site where the current Bulldog Stadium is sitting on is the only opportunity to build, if we are going to do a new venue, is to build it on that site because of the no availability of additional land. So it was important for us to sit back and do a critical analysis of what you have out there now, and to make sure that whatever we do in place of on that site, that it addresses, as we talked about, the kind of the community experience. We want to enhance that, looking at it from all aspects of whether it's people coming out for the class of 2027 graduation, what is that experience like on that site, or whether or not they're coming out for Friday night lights and watching a game, what is that experience like? Or if there's another community gathering, the opportunity to maybe host regional meetings or different types of events, what is that experience like? So as we begin the process of looking at the site, the existing site, we want to take a critical look at some of the characteristics of the site and how do we enhance that experience. So we kind of where we are now, and like I said, if I'm talking too fast, but just kind of let you know, so where we are now, as we kind of dove into looking at preliminary options of how we kind of tie all that together. So what we did was we presented 3 site plan options to the committee, and they range from barely touching the site, leaving this kind of the stadium where it is, even though those of us who are familiar with Bulldog Stadium, we understand it's a very tight site. Obviously, traffic is an issue, parking is an issue, accessing the site is an issue. You have the existing field house where it is. It's a lack of presence off of Fairmont. So we looked at an option where we kind of pretty much kept what you have there now. We also looked at an option where maybe we adjust the stadium but leave the field house where it is. The third option that the committee overwhelmingly supported, because it felt like it met all of those overall goals that we talked about earlier, in terms of being able to create a unique experience for the students, being a place that the community, a new venue that the community can share in and be engaged with, as well as meeting the upcoming needs of the district, since we know the existing facility no longer meets those goals. Now we want an opportunity to be able to attract more outside opportunities in terms of UIL events, things like that. So the option that they selected, option 3, which I'm going to talk about here in a minute, they felt it checked all of those boxes. And so kind of where we are right now is we're still in the preliminary stage of taking that option and kind of getting into some of the fine tuning of exactly, what does that mean, how, what pieces go where and what have you. So what I'm going to present tonight is just kind of an overall massing study of the site. As I said, we're still engaged in conversations with the various voices that need to be heard from the Porte ISD in terms of what happens out there. But right now, we're kind of in that preliminary stage of how we've organized it on the site. So with that, we kind of walk you through this, and maybe you have a copy here, but I'll kind of use a little point here. So as you know, right now where the stadium is positioned is between the high school off of Fairmont, and you have Texas Street on the left-hand side. So what we're proposing to do is to take the existing stadium and shift it to the northwest corner of the site, kind of where the tennis courts are, a little bit closer to G Street, and keeping, of course, Texas Street here. And then also being able to create a new kind of pedestrian plaza between the new stadium and the existing high school. Now, right now, what we're looking at is that this stadium, we're proposing to expand the capacity from a little bit over 6,000 seating capacity to about 8,500. And what that will allow to do is, when we talk about graduation events, it allows you to get more parents and more relatives and friends and family in on graduation day to celebrate the fact that their child or a friend of theirs are walking across the stage. So we really want to kind of expand the seating capacity of the existing stadium. And by pushing it to the northwest corner of the site, it allows us to not only do that in terms of expanding the capacity, but it also allows us to address the issue with flooding. So now if you notice, we're able to create more of a green space on 3 sides of all 4 sides of the stadium, as opposed to what you have right now, where you kind of landlocked between Texas Street and the road between the high school. It's kind of limited in terms of being able to address some of those flooding issues. So of course, we're working very closely, as I said, with the committee and our engineers to look at how we would address that. But this kind of gives us more of that opportunity to address that. Then the other thing it does too is, we talked about earlier, the committee wanted to take a look at creating this new multi-purpose center off of Fairmont Street. What that does is that's going to give us an opportunity to create more of a front door appearance off of Fairmont to the new complex here. When we talk about front door, we're saying we want to be able to create a more prominent entryway to this venue. And as you're coming down Fairmont, you kind of get more of that feel of a sense of arrival, a sense of place, a destination, what have you. And then also by locating it in the northwest corner of the site. The other thing it does too is that if you've ever been in the existing press box, you will notice that you have a beautiful view of the bay if you ever go in the upper level. Well, by pushing proposing to relocate the stadium in this northwest corner, it gives you even more of a view toward that bay, because obviously if the site ends up getting raised a little bit, then of course by shifting it here, it kind of opens up more of that view too. So once again, we're talking about the experience, whether you're there for a child's graduation or a track and field event, or even on Friday nights when I'm not gonna mention Deer Park, but that's okay. If you go out there for a game, it's that whole experience. And so we think that doing this too, right now you have just a vehicle traffic pattern that kind of separates the stadium from the high school. What this will allow us to do is kind of turn this off if we need to on certain event days, where this could become just a pedestrian walkway. So on graduation day, if you have kids or whoever coming from the Bulldog Center, now they can kind of have a free access into the stadium to really enjoy the experience. So when the cheerleaders are coming, game day, they're trying to get onto the site, they no longer have to cross through any path on the backside of the stadium to get inside. Now they're able to come from the Bulldog Center and enter through here. And if you notice, the other thing it does too is that it kind of opens up the home side entrance, because I know right now, we're all coming in off of, Texas Street. If you've ever tried to go through that front entrance, you notice how you run into an issue with parents dropping off kids, and you're trying to get in through the gate, it gets really congested, kind of clustered up there. So by turning it at an angle, this creates more of an open plaza area on this side to allow for that entire fan experience to be enhanced. The other thing we're proposing to do, and like I say, this is all still preliminary, and it's all been vetted out, but another thing we noticed is that by rebuilding this creating this new multi-purpose center, it also allows us to pick up some additional parking between Fairmont and the current stadium location, and then also creates a nice little pedestrian plaza, once again, kind of eliminating that hazard of vehicle traffic and drop off and pick up, and people trying to enter in on graduation day or some other event. So this is kind of where we are. As I said, we're still in the preliminary stages. We have kind of a massing study of how we're proposing to locate the new venue on the current site. We'll continue to have discussions with the design committee, as well as engaging other voices throughout the district. As we talked about in this multi-purpose center, so it's going to serve different purposes, right? So the committee has asked us to take a look at not only providing the athletic facilities, or what we would consider to be the private spaces on one level. On the second level would be a conference center that will allow the district to attract more participation from the communities and others to have training, and it has a flexible, it'll be flexible enough where you can have small group participation to large group participation, and that would all be on what we're identifying as public spaces on the second floor. I'll say it in about 4 minutes. I'm good? Okay. So that's kind of where we are right now. As I said, none of this is finalized, but we definitely wanted to make sure we heard the voices in the room of what their priorities are. We talked about the only way that this project is going to be a success is that if we hear the voices of the Porte ISD, that this facility will be uniquely yours. So we made sure that we engage the committee to hear the pros and cons of everything that's being considered out there, to make sure that what we're going to eventually recommend to the board is something that has been properly vetted by your voices, your committee, your folks, to tell us exactly what needs to happen. So with that, I will open it up for any questions or comments.
You got me fired up. There's a lot of revenue possibilities in this right here. Bringing outside things in here, regional meets and things to that nature, AAU events. What about a scoreboard? Is that included into the price of it all, a video board type situation?
Yes, sir. So right now, we're looking at all of that. We're still trying to finalize the location of that. Right now, though, if you look at the proposed design for the committee, this is almost set up like a theater.
Mm-hmm.
So with the thinking being that if it's graduation day, you would have your stage kind of set up in this end zone, so all the parents and aunts and uncles are all facing this way. So that seems to be the most logical place to put a scoreboard, and so we would try to keep it in that location. And all those kind of details we're working out right now.
Okay. The video board goes a long way.
The multi-purpose center,
Yes,
part of
sir.
the space is, does it address the cross-country track, get everybody out of the new gym and into this space, or is it just football, or?
Right now, the program of spaces that we're looking at from the committee is that we're addressing the football, athletics needs, as well as track and soccer. Since this will also, I apologize, I should have mentioned that. So obviously, the proposed design will include a new 8-lane track instead of what you have there now, which will allow you to qualify to host more district events. So yes, we are looking at bringing both male and female soccer, track, and into the multi-purpose.
And one thing to note, it's still really early, but as we're moving and refining, the idea too is to not denote it to anything, right? To be able to, it can move and be flexible any year, it can serve this sport, and then have the ability to do both male, both female, and have, those options. We don't make it for soccer because in 3 years we may need it for something else.
Yeah, that's what I wanted. That answers my question. I want to make sure that the space does have, long range, it's gonna serve us for the long term, and it's not just a stopgap. And obviously, we had some concerns brought to our attention in the last year, and with co-ed space, really making sure that it's feasible for our female athletes to be able to have use of the space, but there's no limitations there, so.
Yes, sir.
Good.
And that was one of the voices in the room, was to make sure that we understand it has been a challenge in the district in the past. And so we will make sure that going forward, that you have the ability for both male and female, flexibility in terms of changing out the sports if you need to, but it will be provisions within that, in the multi-purpose center.
As far as I like the layout of this, but to me it has a inherent problem of our crown jewel right now is the Bulldog Center. And it's hard enough that when we have an event at the Bulldog Center, it's really hard for people, there's not an actual address tied to it. It's hard to tell people where to go, but at least they can see it from the road. If you look at this, it's gonna be completely covered up. And not only that, it looks like, how many spaces did you take out, parking spaces, south of G Street?
I think we added.
No, like where the north end of the, that was a parking lot, right? And so the other issue we have with events at the Bulldog Center, we've had several last month alone. We have limited parking already. And so that's gonna be another concern that I would ask you guys to, I mean, I don't know, I don't have the answer to that, but we've now taken out however many spaces that is, and it's completely covered up.
But you created stuff, you created.
But it's not, but it's like saying, but it's on the other side of it. It's not
You
gonna
know,
be
those spaces are about as equal to that space over there to walk the floor.
they're really not.
Well, the spaces of it, south of G, those
Promise
are
they're
all,
not.
that's where the visitor buses go. We don't have, there's no spectator parking up there during football games at least, right?
No, sir. So what you have right now, this is that large parking space that just, where most people park for the Bulldog Center. There are some parking along here where the current laundry room is, but it's very minimal. We would still keep the access for buses to be able, visitor buses to be able to come in off of G Street, park along here, still utilize this parking space. And then, as I say, we are capturing by shifting the multi-purpose center north of the sidewalk, north of the site of where it is right now. We are able to pick up some additional parking spaces along here. Now, as I said, short of building this on a totally new site, we understand that parking is gonna always be a challenge out there. So what we're trying to do, though, where we can, is pick up as much additional parking to at least help alleviate some of that. But obviously, unless you do a 20-acre site somewhere, and if you look at the parking ratio that's needed for whether it's an 8,500 seat stadium or a 10,000 seat stadium, it would be way more parking than what you're able to get on that limited site. And that's what we talked about, some of the critical site analysis that we have. And so obviously the parking is one of the biggest challenges, but we're at least trying to capture as much as we can back here as well.
And again, I'm not envious of those challenges. It's just, we had a $270 million bond in 14, and the crown jewel of that bond was just that Bulldog Center, and now it's gonna be completely covered up. So, I mean,
Can I make one comment to that? So actually, if you look at your original plan right now, your stadium is kind of going north and south straight up here, so it blocks more of that entrance into Bulldog Arena. By pushing it back in that northwest corner, it actually opens up a little bit more, and now you have this pedestrian plaza that you're able to kind of create to tie what's happening at the Bulldog Center to what's happening at the Dog House or at Bulldog Stadium. And that was one of the things that the committee really liked, the idea of creating this symbiotic relationship between what's happening at Bulldog Center and the Bulldog Stadium. And so this is more open now. Right now you just have that canopy that kind of runs along the side. It's kind of, unless you know it's there and you just happen to see everybody going to the Bulldog Center for a game, you're just following the folk. But at least here now, you create this, especially if you think about homecoming, right? And you have a nice little procession of flags and lighting along this new pedestrian plaza. It's bringing you into not only this entry here, but also this, because right now, you don't use, from what I've seen, and if I'm wrong, please tell me I'm wrong here, but you're not utilizing this entrance into your stadium off from Bulldog Center, right? It's kind of, it's there, it's almost like a back door. This now allows you to create a strong connection between the center and the stadium, bringing, like I say, you stop the vehicles here, this all becomes pedestrian along here. Only if the emergency vehicle can still get access, but this is becoming a strong pedestrian access to both complexes. And it ties the stadium, the center, and the high school all into one big campus. So it's a, you know, it's a kind of walker-friendly type, you know, pedestrian-friendly, environment.
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Bromley, but I think you could use that entrance and exit for students coming in and out, but for events, that's not a real plausible entrance, right? Because it's on the ground level. But my point is, the main entrance to that is on the north side of that building, and it's elevated to the second or third level, whatever that is.
Yeah. so
Whereas
everyone's-
the entrance you're referring to on the right there
Everyone's coming around to here, right?
is a level 1 entrance, more of a getting into the school instead of the actual stadium.
Right, but you create more of an experience. If I'm going to the Bulldog Center for a basketball game, let's say, all right, and I'm parked here, now instead of just walking under a narrow canopy, you now have this pedestrian walkway that's bringing me around to the front door of the Bulldog Center.
And I think it's how we, you know, obviously with the new stadium being there, it's how we set that up, it's how we, you know, we promote the movement and the traffic with our folks. The idea, and I'll tell you 100% the driving force is to not take away from the Bulldog Center, but how do we make it all kind of feel like that college feel, you know, game day and you know, vendors set up in that area. We've talked through kind of that atmosphere and, you know, I think it's what we kind of created, but, yeah.
Well, and to Mr. Bromley's point, especially here off of G Street, you know, now this becomes open where parents or whoever, some uncle could set up a little tent out there and, you know, sell some link sandwiches if he wants to, you know. I mean, it just kind of creates that whole experience, and that's, you know, this, if you stop and think about it, Porte ISD is a small college town, right? It just happens to be, we're going there for a high school game. But it creates that whole atmosphere of us, you know, those of us who didn't go to the large mega colleges, who went to the small college, we understand what that's like. You know, it's like a family. We're all, you know, haven't seen, you know, since the last event, and so it kind of creates that feel of a small college campus. And by tying, you know, this entire complex together, it kind of reinforces that hometown feel. Not all of us like to live in a city that have 2.5 million people. Some of us like to know our neighbors and, you know, go to graduation and see my niece finally get out of high school. I've been begging for her to get out of high school for the longest, and now I go see her graduate. Anyway.
I'm sorry, I missed where you were saying that you were considering the scoreboard, or were you saying in the same place that we have, does it have that kind of theater stadium style feel to it?
Yeah, so we are, if you look at it, we've kind of changed the axis of the relationship between the stadium and the multipurpose center. So we still want to kind of try to work it to keep the scoreboard at that end. And so that way, on graduation day, everyone is kind of facing this, and then, you know, they're facing toward the multipurpose center. You have the scoreboard kind of above that. The other thing we'll work this out as part of the details with the committee is we talk about bringing in a state-of-the-art sound system. So that, you know, this configuration allows for us to add sound from different perspectives now, instead of everything kind of coming from the scoreboard the way it does now. You now have these arc seating here. I'm hoping you guys make this the student section, because that's gonna be real fun. But anyway, you now have this type of seating here where you can introduce sound from all around the stadium as opposed to one point, so that the whole experience become that much more enhanced, because now if you're sitting there, you're hearing the band, you're hearing the child's name being called, and it's all coming at you from all directions. Can I ask you a question?
Do we happen to know, I mean, obviously, we're on the up and up on our football program, we're hoping to grow the district numbers, but I believe you said that we're currently at about 6,000 capacity in Curtin Stadium. How often do we sell that stadium out?
So, I think we're at about 7,200 on the capacity of the stadium. So it would grow, whatever that is, 8,600. But I would say Deer Park, Harbor Seal.
Yes, the district we're in right now,
Right.
I guarantee you, if we play
Really
those
dictating
teams
success.
here, those are gonna be, maybe not sellout, but they'll be pretty close.
And you gotta think too, if we want it to become a venue for UIL and these different things that come in, it's gotta have capacity and things to meet those marks. I think we're located perfectly to be that hub for,
Anybody coming from East Texas,
Right.
moving this
Yeah.
way, they're gonna opt to be here on a Friday night or a Saturday evening
And,
for playoff.
and we can't even do that.
Or marching
We
band.
can't even do it.
While it's a great football venue, track is really gonna be
Oh,
showcased
absolutely.
with that, with, right there, I mean, you can't ask for a better.
Well, and you're not gonna find that, obviously, if we keep this and go forth, but I guess that'd be the northeast end zone, further there, that's your field.
Your field business.
Yeah, I mean, that's inside the stadium.
You're
That's
gonna beat
far-
Humble
that's-
out for all those, UL
Absolutely,
things. You're
because
gonna
most of the
beat
time,
that
that's a
right
quarter
there.
mile away out on grass, because it's not set up inside the stadium, so that to be turf, if that's what we move with, to have that makes us totally different. Also, the horseshoe, you don't see that a lot either, and one of the reasons behind that is obviously our footprint would get wider if we had to try to, go two-sided, so it's very unique, and I think so far, we tried to answer, all the.
Where's the nearest UIL? I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Where's the nearest UIL? Because I heard a lot about that UIL events, but also heard that a lot of the districts can have them or don't. Like, where's the nearest UIL facility currently
Well, I think
What are you
they're
talking
three
about?
miles away from, anybody.
to
can
host
do
these
that.
different events? Like, so it's like the track, for example, that's brought up a lot.
Clear
Like,
Creek and.
Clear Creek,
Humble,
Humble,
Humble, Challenger
Holton.
Stadium,
Yeah.
host all the regional meets.
so I mean, so if our competition is Clear Creek, do we think even as nice as this would be, it's still going to fail in comparison to the size and scope
Oh, I
of?
think so.
Without a question.
You won't get it every year, you'll get in a rotation with bids and stuff like
That's
that.
what I think this place would be a viable spot because of the small town charm of it. I really do.
But with the parking being an issue though, because
But the people that are coming here, when we host things now, people find parking for that. I mean, I hate to kind of out some of the places we park, but when we host very large events, it's, people find parking for this. We had a game a couple of weeks ago where 10,000 people were here. And I didn't really get any complaints from anybody about where to park because they know traditionally where to park on those large nights like that.
And
I'll
this-
buy me one of them bikes and I'll bike people to stuff.
One thing we're going to do is try to reach out to some surrounding districts that have sites just to see if, to get some comparables of numbers and what they intake, because, I think that's a, selling point all in itself.
How much, the way my brain works, that would be great in terms
Yeah.
of like what kind of revenue we're
Right,
expecting. Because that was
absolutely.
one of the things that was discussed ad nauseum when we had the Bulldog Center.
Right.
And I don't believe we're using that. COVID threw us in the loop. We're like,
Sure.
when's the last time we had an event for UIL at the
We-
Bulldog Center?
We do a lot of playoffs there.
For volleyball?
Alicia's not here, but we do
Volleyball and
basketball and
And
volleyball.
I've attended several of them.
Yeah, so we,
But we'll look.
But we talked about doing a
Because
lot
it's
of
a
like
great place in this
tournaments,
area, there's so many.
a lot of different things we were gonna use that facility for, and I feel like it's still being underutilized.
I don't know what the right word for this, the viewing experience or whatever, because I've seen I know one thing I like about Bulldog Stadium is like when you're watching it from the stands, you feel like you're right there by the field. And I know some stadiums, and I'm not going to mention the name of one, but I feel like I'm so far away from the viewing experience, I don't have that same experience. So you tell me with this design plan, that same viewer experience that we have right now with Bulldog Stadium,
Still be close.
still be close?
Yes, so we're working on the angles of the risers and right now, so that you
Well,
feel.
Okay.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry, but you're leading to my next question as far as the angle, because you don't want to be too steep, but also I know one of the bad things about what our current Bulldog Stadium is there's no hand railings for people that are going up, and I think that's a big safety issue that we need to address, and hopefully with this it will be. But you're leading my. I'm sorry to interrupt, but that was my next one about the
you're
angle thing
fine.
too.
And that
so.
was one of the, like I say, when we talk about the voices in the room, that was one of the things that definitely had to be addressed. Was they talked about that right now the current the site is not optimal from viewing from every location, and so that was one of the things that they wanted to make sure that we address is that no matter where you see the sitting, the viewing is optimal, whether it's especially if there's a track event. So the angles will be set up where if you're on the front row or the back row, you can see your child running in the 8th lane or the outside lane or the inside lane, whatever. And it's all kind of, angles of the seating is gonna be based on that. And then, of course, there's a concourse area. I don't know if you can see it on this plan, but there's a concourse area here that's kind of separates the lower bowl from the upper bowl. And so,
Yeah, I'm sorry, because like on the north north side, that space there, I just feel like that looks like kind of a little bit more removed from the action of the field. You know what I mean?
yeah, from this sitting
Yeah.
here, it's as you go around that circle, the arc of that, the pitch is gonna change. So it's almost like you, I hate to say Jerry World, but I have to. If you have been in Jerry's World, you know, have you ever been in Jerry's World? AT&T Stadium? Okay.
No.
So for those of us who can only afford to buy the nosebleed sections, if you ever sit in that seat, in those seats, and you're in the corner of the field, because of the pitch of the seating, it feels like you're right on top of it. You don't have to use the gigantic scoreboard that the corner keeps hitting off of, and it's because of the angle of the seats, and so it would be kind of that same.
Okay.
You know, I think it's important to know, we're having some conversation about it this year. And certainly the board will be invited to the rest of our steering committee meetings in a formal setting so we can have even more of these conversations. But I think one of the things that Mrs. Bromwich shared and Mr. Barnes early on, that this is still in the embryonic stages of it all. And so it's clearly we're getting feedback and starting to look at, what's going to be the absolute best. One of the things that you probably didn't touch on as much as I probably want you to, and you've done a phenomenal job tonight, I appreciate you being here, is the fact that in that opening section over here, that, I don't know what we call it here, but there is training rooms, there's professional development rooms. We are actually sitting in the district's professional development center right now. Every meeting that we have, for the most part, we do here in the boardroom. And if we have a board meeting at night, we hurry and scurry along. And I'm not complaining about that, but I'm saying the district is growing and its needs have changed. And certainly one of the things that I'd love to see happen is that there is a place for us to be able to bring staff to kind of have those large group instructional settings for this. So this is just not an athletic venue. I've kind of tried to really talk about that a lot because I don't want people thinking the only thing we're trying to do is build a football stadium, but it is a multi-purpose stadium that we can do many, many things and host many, many events. The event that we hosted in the Bulldog Center last Friday, if based on the numbers that you shared with me last week, we could really host one of those events upstairs in one of those areas in a much smaller, intimate setting, more intimate setting, in my opinion. And then there were 3 other things that were happening at the high school at the same time. Mr. Graham was whispering in my ear, we've got 2 more meetings in this room, so as soon as y'all finish, thank you, So the district's needs are just are growing, and I think it's certainly worth us having these strong conversations about, where do we go for the future?
And then to Dr. Jackson's point, he's correct. So like I said, and that's why it's important for us to hear those different voices in the room. And so that if I glossed over it, I kind of apologize, but that whole conference center aspect of this is just as important as everything else. When we talk about what we call the public spaces on the second deck, on the second floor of this multi-purpose center, is to do just that. It kind of gives you the flexibility of having one large room where you can have large gatherings. And then we're looking at positioning it in a way where if it is an event taking place in the field at the same time, they can actually sit in those conference center, those rooms, and still do the event, or even maybe have a little outdoor deck out there, or outdoor viewing deck. But at the same time, it has the flexibility where if you don't need a large space, let's say it's just 50 people, where you can subdivide the space to hold smaller groups, or just have the entire thing open, the entire space open up for a large gathering. So that is just as important when we talk about community gathering. What does the community need a place to gather? It's not just the sporting events, but it's also that instructional or that academic. And then also looking at some opportunity to add some academic classrooms potentially to the program as well. So kids, not just the athletes who are utilizing the locker rooms, but also throughout whoever's part of Porte ISD can access it for classroom space and meetings. So all that is kind of being worked out with as we go through the program spaces. I'm gonna stop talking because I feel like I'm talking too much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr.
Board, any
Barnes.
more questions? Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll go to item 8, consent agenda. Item A, determine and approve any consent agenda items. B, approve board meeting minutes. Number 1, regular board meeting minutes, August 9th, 2022. Number 2, special board meeting minutes, August 23rd, 2022. C, receive principals' reports. Number 1, Early Childhood Center. 2, Bayshore Elementary. 3 College Park Elementary, 4 Heritage Elementary, 5 Jenneria Elementary, 6 LaPorte Elementary, 7 Leo A. Rizzuto Elementary, 8 Lomax Elementary, 9 James H. Baker 6th grade campus, 10 LaPorte Junior High, 11 Lomax Junior High, 12 LaPorte High School, 13 Villa DeWalt High School. D, receive financial reports for August 2022. E, receive human resources report.
I'd like to pull that, please.
Okay. F, approve budget amendment. G, approve employment of professional staff. H, approve purchase of Microsoft Enterprise Support Services. I, approve second reading and adoption of TASB Local Policy Update 119 affecting local policy CPC Local, DMA Local, EHAA Local, EHB Local, EHBAA Local, EHBB Local, EIF Local, FFBA Local, and FFH Local. Okay.
I don't know what it means.
No. I. J, approve 2022 certified tax roll totals pursuant to the Texas Property Tax Code. K, approve 2022-2023 TEA waiver for grade 7 reading instrument. L, adopt a resolution number 2022-10 to declare extracurricular status of 4-H and approve appointment of Harris County Extension agents as adjunct faculty for purpose of supervising LaPorte ISD students participating in designated 4-H activities. Okay, that is our consent. Mr. Shoppy, would you please read back our consent agenda?
A, B 1 and 2, C 1 through 13, D, F, G, H, J, K, and L.
Okay. Seek a motion.
So moved.
Ms. Thompson made a motion,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Shoppy. Call for the vote, and it is approved unanimously. Thank you. Okay, we'll go to item E, receive human resources report. Ms. Thompson.
Yes, I just had a couple of questions about this. I wondered if we are tracking data from last year around this time where we can look at the number of subs used each time to see if that number is growing or if it's static, or are we comparing? Yes, are we looking at last year's data or year before to see, like, this number looks very high to me, and I don't know if it really is compared to last year at this time. Uh-huh.
I don't know what do you know if you want to set that?
I have it all in this doc, but I haven't anything here in me yet.
So we send it out to administrators annually within this building to look at our sub reports. But there's no comparison because it's the current day's report. But we certainly can do some comparison.
Yeah, I mean, if it's not too hard to pull the data, I'm just curious if these are average numbers, or, you know, I want to have some numbers in my head so I know what is average, so that I know if we have a spike, then what is the reason for that spike, and how are we finding those subs, and I mean, you know, we talk a lot about the sub experience, and I know we did a lot of training on that during starting of school. So anyway, that's all I had. I just wondered if we ever track the data from year to year to look for trends. Thank you.
Board, do you have any further questions on the item?
Nope, I'm the only one with a question, I think.
Okay. I'll seek a motion. Mr. Shoppy made the motion, seconded by Mr. Hanks. Call for the vote. It is approved unanimously. Thank you. We'll go on item I, approve second reading and adoption of TASB Local Policy Update 119 affecting local policy CPC Local, DMA Local, EHAA Local, EHP Local, EHBAA Local, EHBB Local, EIF Local, FFBA Local, and FFH Local. Okay, Mr. Hanks.
I just wanted to hear you say it again. I don't know what it is. I don't know. I don't want to just say yet. I don't know what all that jargon is. I apologize for my ignorance, but I don't know what I'm voting on. So
That comes from TASB. We get annual updates, and where they make modifications based off updated legislation. It's a standard update.
Okay.
We can go through it, but it's very standard.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So they pay attention closely to the law for us, right? If there's any administrative code that changes, then they send us.
Right, and those are updates we take in our class. Got it. Okay, I appreciate it.
Okay, and board, any further questions? Okay, seek a motion. Mr. Shoppy made a motion,
Second.
seconded by Ms. Thompson. Call for the vote. It is approved unanimously. Thank you. We'll go to item 9, action and/or discussion items. A, consider and possible action on proposed termination of certified classroom teacher Antoinette Hendricks, classroom teacher at Bayshore Elementary School, for abandonment of contract and process for notification to the State Board for Educator Certification for certification sanctions. Seek a motion.
I move that the board propose the termination of the probationary contract of Ms. Hendricks, that the board authorize the superintendent to notify Ms. Hendricks of the proposed termination of her probationary contract, that the board find that no good cause existed for Ms. Hendricks to abandon her contract, and that the board authorize the superintendent to notify SPEC of Ms. Hendricks' contract abandonment at the appropriate time.
Okay, Mr. Hanks made a motion.
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Thompson. Call for the vote. It is approved unanimously. Go to item 10, closing comments of board trustees and superintendent. A, attendance at recent district and community events. B, announcement of upcoming district and community events. C, outstanding performance by district staff and students. Board, any comments?
I would like to acknowledge Keith Wilson, the athletic coordinator at LaPorte Junior High. He has pioneered, he's piloting a program, Becoming a Man, and he gathers these young men after hours, after practice on Mondays at 6 o'clock. We've had 35 kids at least in both classes. Fairmont Baptist Church comes in, they feed them some pizza, and we talk. I had the pleasure of speaking to the kids yesterday about character and what it takes to get a job. But they were very receptive, and I think there's a huge need for it. And I really admire the fact that he's taking that on. It's personal time that he's got to spend in it, but the program's going really well. I think there's some legs on this thing. It's going to grow. So.
That's awesome.
Keith is a good asset to the board.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. I just want to say that with my leg injury, I've been watching a lot of LaporteSports.net. So I got to watch a volleyball game the other day. Got to watch the homecoming gang from its entirety and watch the band perform afterwards. So I appreciate the efforts on that front. I've never really thought about it from a disability aspect, I guess, until you have one. So then you know. My husband and I have adopted a teacher at Bayshore Elementary for the year, and I challenge all my fellow board members to find a teacher and adopt, and try to help them have a smoother year and see what they might need inside their room for needs, or maybe they need people to come, or whatever it is that they might need. And just want to congratulate all the inductees into the Distinguished Alumni and Distinguished Citizens. That's always, a really heartwarming, touching thing. And just want to congratulate those well-deserving people. That's it.
Jeff?
That, Mr. Bromley, the tree cleaning over at Porte High School.
Oh,
That's
hallelujah.
great.
Yes,
Things are
thank
looking
you.
nice around the district right now. Appreciate that.
Thank you very much.
Jeff? I'll make this real quick. First of all, I want to congratulate all the students that were honored tonight, and also I want to congratulate and thank the hard work for all the principals and staff and teachers at the campuses, regardless of our accountability scores. We thank you for all the hard work you are all doing. Also, too, for the first time in 7 years, our enrollment in the district is up. I want to thank again Todd Shoppy, principal, staff, and Dr. Jackson for bringing our enrollment up and advocating on behalf of our students. I know.
Parents are coming back.
Yes, and back in 2008, our student enrollment was slightly over 7,900, and I know we have some ways to go to reach that mark again, but we are definitely on a positive trajectory, especially given all the challenging external factors that we are facing. And so, and thank y'all all, and I think showcasing our students and teachers, bringing to the forefront and limelight all the extraordinary stories of all the extraordinary individuals that make up our district. I mean, it's having a positive impact. Parents and students are choosing LaPorte. And I just want to thank you all, and please keep up the good work. I also want to thank Danny Hanks for speaking to students at LaPorte Junior High as part of the Becoming a Man series that was coordinated by the Boys Athletic Program. Mr. Hanks spoke to the students about character, taking initiative, respecting self and others, and going the extra mile. And thank you for reaching out to those students. And finally, I want to congratulate Deanne Thompson for being accepted into Leadership TASB, becoming only the 6th board trustee from LaPorte ISD to participate in the prestigious program in the 30-year history of the program.
Well, it helps when you get a nice letter from your board president recommending you and your superintendent. They made me sound so good they couldn't not let me in, I think.
As stated on their website, Leadership TASB is a unique board development program designed to take experienced board members to a new level of service and leadership by exposing them to a variety of issues, people, activities, and locations during a year-long program. And class members are selected for demonstrated leadership in their local district and communities and for the representation of the diversity of Texas school districts. I personally enjoyed the program, meeting experienced trustees throughout the state, seeing different programs offered by different districts, seeing how districts approach many of the issues differently. It was an eye-opening, enriching experience that will make you not only a better trustee, but help you bring a different perspective and framework that will help guide your service here in LaPorte. Again, I know you will enjoy that experience, and I would encourage all our trustees to apply for this program when application season begins next spring. And so that's all I have. And with that, we'll call for adjournment at